Hey, what's up everybody? We're back, another episode of Jeepers Creepers Tarantulas. Today we got my nephew. He's going to be helping me with a project. So
Hi, my name is Gino, and I'm going to be helping my uncle make a superworm farm. First, we're going to be starting with cutting out these squares for this. Now we're going to be cutting a piece of string to place over the rows we made. Now we have to hot glue this string to the bottom of this.
Gotta hold the mesh there.
alright, well, since it was past Gino's bedtime, we're going to have to finish this all by ourselves. So basically what we have is the screen's done, everything's hot glued in here. Gino did a nice job cutting this out, getting the screen in there, cutting the screen. So basically what this is a superworm farm, like Gino stated. I want to start breeding my own superworms, so that way I have a steady supply. The more animals I get, the more I need food in demand. And sometimes it's just a hassle to have to go out to the pet store. The closest pet store I have is like 5 miles away that carries the stuff I need. So I want to start breeding my own. I already have my own roach colonies. I got the dubias, got 2 big dubia colonies. I have a lot of raleighs, the red runners. So I want to start doing the superworms. I got out of crickets completely. Hate crickets, never going back to that. So basically we have this screen in here now. You cut them 2 holes out, and then you cover everything with the screen. And once the superworms turn into beetles, they will go in this top drawer. Once the beetles, reproduce, they have little tiny eggs. The eggs will supposedly fall through this screen into the next bin. So before I do anything, this has got to get, all this oatmeal is going to go in there. Like that. Spread this in here. Thin layer, good to go. Now once the beetles lay their eggs, they will drop down into here. Once they're in here, they'll grow into the superworms, and then once the superworms start, they will go down into this bin, which we already have a bunch of worms in there already. So just waiting on them to turn into beetles, and then we can start this whole process and see where it gets us. I went with a little bit larger of a container, so that way I can hopefully have more bread and more of a supply. between bearded dragons, other lizards, spiders, and everything else that I have. Everything eats superworms, so gonna need a big supply of those. So that's our project for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed. Alright, so another little project we're going to do tonight is turn this model car collector case into an arboreal enclosure for my Ornata. So I went ahead and I already pre-cut the pieces. You cut the pieces and you got to make sure, see these little notches here? You have to make sure that you cut those notches, otherwise when you go to open it, it won't open because they're going to hit each other. So always make sure that you cut those notches in there, so that way when you go to open your door that you have the clearance that allows you to open it. Next we're going to drill the holes for the ventilation. To make my holes even, I like to use a piece of pegboard, so that way it's cut in place, and that way all I got to do is take the drill bit and drill the holes in the center of these holes. Take that away and you got some evenly placed holes. Alright, so once you get your holes drilled and cleaned up on both sides, you're going to take and you want to glue this bottom piece into place. This is going to be your door. Make sure that's where you want that to be. And I've been using this Loctite super glue. I was using hot glue for a while, and I noticed that hot glue works great for some things, and then other things it's terrible. Like, it'll hold for a little while and then you come back and it just falls apart. So I've been using this super glue for my acrylic hinges, for my gluing stuff to glass, all kinds of stuff, and I've had no problems with this so far. So this is my go-to for now compared to the silicone and the hot glue. So just take this and glue around this edge. Not too much. You don't need a lot of this stuff. I like to keep that top one in place just so I know where I need this to go. Let that set up for a second. Alright, so once you get that glued, and then I like to get these bottom hinges glued on the bottom part first. Give them time to set up and everything. Then I like to decorate the inside of the enclosure, so that way these hinges are still setting up and there's no stress on the door while it's in setup as I'm decorating. So I'm going to take this piece of cork bark, and I like to pre-glue the hot glue and let it sit on there, so that way it's actually attached to the cork bark. See, the cork bark and the hot glue attaches alright to the plastic. When it's attaching to glass, it's a little more difficult because the hot glue really doesn't hold at all with the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and put some hot glue on this and reapply pretty generously on here. Then I'm going to take it and try to stick it in this corner. Just hold that for a second. Try to get all the little strings off, so that way when I'm done, she'll have her hide up up there. She'll be able to hide behind there. So let's just give that a little bit to set up. While that's setting up, I'm going to go grab some substrate, and I'll be right back. Okay, so once you have it decorated, everything, you got your substrate in, got your cork bark in, your plants if you want to put a plant in there. I tried to glue the water bowl up a little higher so that way she always has access to water up high. Being an arboreal species, they don't always like to go on the ground. Sometimes they will, especially when they're in a new enclosure. So with her first couple weeks in here, I'm expecting her to be on the ground, but hoping she gets a little more comfortable and she'll go up behind the cork bark and enjoy her new home. So what we're going to do now is we are going to glue this front door in place with the other hinges. So we'll do that now. Alright, now that we have the hinges and the door secured, I also put on one of these little hinges so that way you got some easier to, or not hinges, door handles. I got them from Hobby Lobby. They came in like a pack of 5 for like $2, I think. But it makes it so much easier to pull the door open. And I forgot to mention when I was building it, you always want to put a hole up top there, so that way you can drop something like this little bolt through there and the door can't open. Something easy to get out, something so you can open the door and then get in there, have the enclosure. So now that the enclosure is done, the moment we've all been waiting for is to try to get this Ornata inside this enclosure. I'm going to try and do this as easy as possible, so let's see how this goes. Alright, if you haven't seen me rehouse anything before, this is basically what I use to rehouse the tarantulas. Try to do it as easily and least chance of escape as possible. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid off the Ornata, I'm going to slide this over top, and then I have a hole in the bottom of the Ornata case or container, enclosure, whatever you want to call it, and I take this and I poke up and the Ornata will climb inside this. Then I'll take another piece of cardboard, put it under that, I'll put her inside another container, and since they like to be jumpy and run all over the place, I'm just going to place that container inside the enclosure and let her come out on her own. So let's see how this works. Let me see if I can find something a little longer. Alright, well as soon as I got up, she made her move and got up into this top container. You see, just cover it with another piece of cardboard. That way they can't come out. So what we're going to do now is try to get her into this container now. So you set this over top of this container. Gotta make sure you line it up. Then you take your same prodder and just lightly tap them. You don't want to apply much pressure. You don't want to hurt anything. You just want them to go down. So she's really calm, no threat pose, no nothing. She's just doing exactly what I want her to. So that's always good. So now that she's where I want her to, you take the piece of cardboard back up. Then There you have her. And we'll put her in her enclosure now. We'll just let her sit there and let her come out at her own will. So that way, less chance of escapee. I can try to, let's just see what happens. There, Mama. It's okay. And there, she's in. There you have her. She's in her new home, well deserved. Water bowl, cork bark. So that was pretty easy, nice and easy going. The system's pretty fail safe and works great. So if you ever get a chance to do rehouses, I definitely suggest that method. It's definitely a great method.